Okay. All right, so as I mentioned, if you were missing any of the supplies, I'm going to take off points now, but I will give them back to you freely when you show me the thing that you were missing. So no stress there about the lateness, just get it done. We're going to go over the Bunsen burner questions, so have those out. But just kind of the reminders, guys, you have a math test tomorrow. Yeah? That extra practice that I put online, guess what? I had 2 errors in my answer key. I had fixed it last year, but then I didn't export it again to a new PDF. So just this morning, 8:15, the announcement got updated with the correct answer key. So if you had worked through that and you're like, I don't understand why I'm missing these, go back and check. It was 2 towards the bottom of the front, 2 of the calculations that I had made an error. With that, please feel free to message me. I told the student that came in this morning that caught the error. She was like, I'm not getting this. If you would message me over the weekend, that's the kind of thing that I won't put off until Monday. I'll take care of that right at the moment and get the correct answer key out. So always, keep that in mind, that helping you guys with your work is usually a priority. Like dealing with other clerical things, that usually can wait until Monday. But helping you with work, I like to take care of those as soon as possible. Okay? All right, for these Bunsen burner questions, some of you last night I sat down and I was going through them and I was making comments for those of you that were submitting 2 files. I'm not going to penalize you. I asked you to try to resubmit just so that you could practice, but it's going to be locked out now. Don't panic. I'm not going to take points off this week, but you really need to figure out how you're going to do that if you don't already have a method. I would say a good percentage of you did submit multi-page files, a 2-page file, right? Instead of 2 separate files. So ask your friends. There's a very good chance one of your friends could help you, but also please feel free to ask me. I sent some links out to somebody this weekend with some options about how they could do that. Okay, so start working on that, because starting next week there will be slight deductions if you don't submit it as a single file. Still submit it, but if it's not a single file, I'm going to start taking points off, and they progressively get more as the year goes on. Right? So let's figure out how to do that. Last thing before I put up answers. Obviously, I asked you to do complete sentences. My answers are in complete sentences. You do not need to have word for word everything that I wrote down. You hopefully kind of have this a little bit in your mind. You did it on Friday. So just sit back and read. And if you feel like there's something that was really different than what you said, just jot a quick note. You don't need to have the whole word for word thing. Okay? And then again, if you would like to go back and see it again, it is in the class video for today on Canvas. So you can always get to it there. Also, if you wanted to read it again. Okay? All right, so with that, let's get going with questions 1 through 4. Here are questions 1 through 4. Sit back, read, make notes. Alrighty, then moving on, questions 5 through, I think 9 I can get up here. Let's go 5 through 8. So moving on, we're going to go 9. I'm just going to do 9 and 10 for 30 seconds because number 12 is kind of a long answer. So just check out 9 through 11 right now. And I know you were supposed to have a sketch for one of these. It's not in my answer key, but it was on your worksheet for you to copy. All right, ready to move on to 12. Here we go. Number 12 is a little bit of a longer one. Just read over it. Make sure you have the general idea of those 2 ways to heat a test tube. Okay, and then I think we're left with 2 more, 13, 14. So here we go, 13 and 14. All right, so once you are good with that, you can put that up and we'll be moving on to the paper you picked up from the front table today. Right there. All right, so you guys have a lab and safety quiz on Thursday. It's going to be multiple choice and true false. It's going to cover 3 different papers. The one is the Bunsen burner, right, that we just went over. The second one will be the safety in the lab questions. That's the one that's due Wednesday, and we'll check that in class on Wednesday. And then the third one's going to come from this paper, the equipment classification, right? So those are going to be kind of the 3 papers that will be covered on your lab and safety quiz on Thursday. So what we're trying to do today is we're trying to learn about equipment, different types of equipment that we could be using and how they're used. So instead of you just figuring out like, oh, it's this is what it does, we're going to take it one step further. You're going to take all of the equipment that are in these buckets and you are going to separate them into one of 4 different categories based on what they're used for. The 4 different categories that will be available for you to put them in. The first one is experiment containers. That's where you would actually be doing an experiment. You would be mixing chemicals or trying to get a chemical reaction to happen, right? That's their main job, is just to hold on to the stuff that you're doing the reaction with, right? Those are experiment containers. There's going to be 6 of them in your bucket. These numbers are accurate. There's 6 experiment containers. The next category, support equipment. Support equipment is generally about holding up other equipment, right? It's just trying to provide support for whatever experiment that you're setting up to do. There are going to be 7 different pieces of equipment involved in supporting other types of equipment. Then we go to the transfer equipment category. In the transfer equipment category, it's all about moving things from point A to point B. That is their primary function, is to move things from point A to point B. Now this one gets weird because one could argue that sometimes things help move stuff, but that's not their main job. This thing, its main job, its sole purpose is just for moving things around, right? There are 9 different pieces of equipment in your bucket that fit that category. And then unfortunately we have kind of our catch-all, my random, just last stuff that doesn't fit well into one of the other 3 categories. And there are going to be 6 of those in your bucket. Why is that? Well, because I have one of them up here that we're going to do together right now because I don't have 8 of them to put one at each table. All right, so how am I going to know what these things are and what I'm supposed to use them for? In every single bucket, you're going to find 2 pieces of paper. It's one-sided so that you guys could share them and pass them around. I did not make copies for you, but this file is in the file section of Canvas. So if you're trying to study for your quiz on Thursday or you need to finish up your paper, you can do this with the paper on Canvas. But I didn't put it in your binder as a number, right? So on this paper, what you would do is you would look for the picture, right? Here's the apparatus, and then they have the names of the different apparatus right next to them. Here, description, this is just telling you kind of different sizes or what it might look like. But then the other big thing is going to be the use. This is where it tells you what that thing is used for, what its function is, right? So if I start scrolling through here, I'm looking for this guy. It does go together as one piece of equipment. I'm going to scroll. I don't see it yet. I don't see the picture yet. I don't see it until I finally get to, oh, I found it, right? So for those watching at home, this is what I was holding up. It is called the mortar and pestle. And the mortar and pestle is used to grind chemicals into a powder. It's basically a pill crusher for chemistry. We're not going to eat the stuff though. If you had chunks of solid that have kind of clumped together, you can use this to grind them down into a finer powder, which you might need for the experiment that you're doing. Okay? So this is the mortar and pestle. In terms of its function, we don't mix chemicals in here to do reactions. We're just prepping them for a reaction. We're not supporting other equipment. This is its own thing in and of itself, right? And this is not made for transporting. You might argue like, yes, I'm going to have to pour it out, but that's not its job. Its job is to grind it to a powder. And that's why we're going to put this one in the random. Yeah. So everybody right now together, we can do this in the random section. For number 1, we can put mortar and pestle. Now, if you get a chance to write down names today, I do encourage you just to do the names. This you can get later because that file is going to be available to you on Canvas and you can do that at home. But figuring out what things go in what categories, that has to happen today, right? And possibly Wednesday because we probably won't finish, right? FYI, we're going to do this part later together. So that is not part of your activity right now. Your activity right now is just classifying all of this equipment into the one of the 4 categories. Okay? So here's how this is going to work. You guys all have lab groups that I'm going to put up on the board in a second. There's a number next to your name that corresponds to the table that you're going to. So table 1 is up here closest to me. You can see a number right there on the side. Going back, that's 2, 3, straight back in front of me, 4, 5, and then the corner by the door, 6, 7, and 8 is all the way up by the safety shower, right? So those are the table numbers. Everybody is moving. Even if you're already at a table, you could be going to a different table. If you're at a desk, go ahead and leave your stuff. Just take your paper and your pencil so that it doesn't get too crowded. You're going to have a lot of equipment out. If you're already at a table, please move your stuff towards the back counter so that it's out of the way because you're going to be leaving. Also, just take your paper and your pencil because people are going to be moving around. Please make sure your backpacks are such that I can walk around the perimeter of the room. It's mainly the outside, so the very back and the outsides are where I'm going to be walking. And take everything out, start making your groups. You call me over. I will tell you what is correct and what is wrong. If it's wrong, I put it back into the bucket to say, nope, that doesn't go there. But if it's right, I leave it where it is until you finally get it all correct, at which point then you start writing down the names. You guys don't want to write down the names until I've told you your group is correct because what if your categories are wrong, right? So wait until you get approval. Now, since we've been cut short and we're going to be getting out of here earlier, what's going to happen? Wait until I tell you, but the last 2 to 3 minutes of class, I'm going to have at least one person in your group take pictures so you can see where you were at so that you can start in the same spot tomorrow, right? So don't panic, or not tomorrow, but on Wednesday. So we're taking our math test tomorrow, yeah? So take pictures at the end of the period for your piles so that you know where you were at when we come back on Wednesday. No, this is not due tomorrow. You have your math test tomorrow and your safety questions due on Wednesday. All right, we will finish this on Wednesday. Okay? So questions right now before I put up the group numbers. Yes? Oh, thank you. If you have a textbook, please do bring that because I'm going to scan them. I'm going to call you up while you're working. Okay? All right. So then with that, let's get up group.